Welcome back. So let's jump right back into it and talk about dementia, Alzheimer's, and memory loss, because that might be one of the most fearful things for us as we do get older. So Beth, I'm going to go back and throw this to you again.
Okay.
First of all, the difference between the two, right? There's Alzheimer's and then there's dementia. Is that right?
Correct, yes. Actually, dementia is just an overall term describing how somebody's brain is starting not to work as well as it used to the point where they cannot enact their own activities of daily living. They can't, which is, getting dressed, getting to appointments and taking medications and all of those kinds of things. What happens is there is a disease in the brain that is killing those brain cells. Alzheimer's is the most common disease. And what happens with Alzheimer's, the brain develops these beta amyloid plaques and tau protein tangles. So plaques and tangles, if you just know plaques and tangles, you sound very intelligent about Alzheimer's disease. But so the plaques and the tangles are destroying the brain cells. There are other types of dementia. There are really 120 plus diseases that will cause dementia, or dementia symptoms actually. So one is vascular dementia. Something is interrupting the blood flow to the brain cells. Sometimes it's when people have a stroke, and the blood is leaking out. What happens, blood brings nutrients and oxygen to the brain cells, and if the brain cells do not get the nutrients and the oxygen, they shrink and die. So about 15% of dementia cases are vascular.
So can I ask a question real quickly? On the prevention side of things, if there is a way to prevent, Dr. Withers, if blood flow, oxygen is part of it, does that mean exercise is beneficial?
Well, exercise is beneficial, but nutrition really is the key piece there. We know that cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of Americans, just point blank. And so nutrition plays a large part into that, because if we are improperly nourishing our bodies, then that's what starts to develop those plaques and those calcium deposits and things into our blood vessels early on. And then it does, as you age, start to present as memory loss, even whether you've had a heart attack or a stroke or not. I've had patients even where we've done early imaging studies for other reasons, and you still start to see those early signs of vascular damage going on within their brain, even then, and they aren't even having any dementia symptoms just yet.
Okay, so to that point, you see the evidence that it might be coming down the pike, but the symptoms are not there yet.
Right.
Does that mean that if you see it, you can step in to at least diminish what's about to happen?
You can, yes. So with proper nutrition, and proper nutrition really has to have a predominant plant focus. We talked about the blue zones. One of the things with those folks within the blue zones is that they eat a predominantly unprocessed plant forward type of diet. And so that's really important for that cardiovascular disease and for reversing those plaques and those things that are going on within the vasculature that promotes the memory loss and heart attacks and strokes.
I know Ed is ready to have his say. Tell me if I'm right or wrong, Ed. Don't you eat a Mediterranean diet almost exclusively?
I'm Mediterranean with a little bit higher protein than what they recommend, but I completely agree. And one thing, the big word she said to me is unprocessed foods. I always get on tangents for some period of time when I learn from people that I respect. And most mainstream medicine is always a decade at least behind on advice, always. Sometimes longer. Look at the red dye thing that just came up.
Yeah.
Our industry's been talking about it for 40 years, how red dyes are so injuring our children, and everybody censored it and ignored it, except our industry blasted it, and of course the mainstream didn't listen. But as far as unprocessed, I am totally convinced that seed oils are at the root of dementia. What are seed oils? Canola, safflower, bad oils that you cook in. Those are so processed with these horribly toxic carcinogenic chemicals that changes the molecular structure to cause cardiovascular disease, dementia, all the things that the brain is hugely built of fat. Well, guess what? If that fat is inferior, like seed oils, it's going to be an inferior thinking process. And so I'm hugely connected to cleaning that diet up, just like Dr. Withers is saying.
Okay, I'm gonna pause there. I told y'all when we began this that we may get through everything, we may kind of get sidetracked along the way. You said, Ed, cooking with those seed oils.
Yes.
But they're also hidden in things, right? Like mayonnaise will have them.
Oh, it's almost everywhere. I feel like I've reduced my seed oil by 92%, but I do eat out. Some of it's going to slip in. That's fine. I think reducing it by 80 or 90% will make a change. It takes 6 years to get seed oils out of the physical body, and we've all eaten them. And you know what? Our industry used to say sugar is so demon, it's terrible, it's destroying. It really wasn't the sugar. What was the issue that was killing us was that sugar was always connected to seed oils. Yeah, sugar's not super healthy, but it was a seed oil that was in those Twinkies and in those foods and in those even healthy foods that had canola. You can't find foods without canola and safflower oil.
Okay,
almost in a package.
Okay, so there's a tip for you as you watch. Let's go back now to the idea that you suspect there is a problem. We're going to stay with the dementia conversation for a minute. And you're married. Okay, so you suspect this in your spouse. Should you, Dr. Withers, go to the doctor together? And if there is resistance from the spouse to address what might be happening, how do you have that conversation?
Yeah. So yes, you should go to the doctor with your spouse or partner. The reason for that is because a lot of times that patient, one, they may not necessarily agree or think anything's wrong. And a lot of times what happens early on is people still are cognitively able to kind of talk their way around things versus that spouse or that partner who may have seen things more peripherally. They can provide additional information to the doctor that can be helpful for making that diagnosis even earlier.
Is it appropriate to ask for a one-on-one with you, for example, in absence of the spouse? Is that HIPAA allowed?
And some of that, and maybe our attorney can speak to that as well, but some of that will depend on if the patient has given permission to discuss their health care with their partner or spouse.
All right,
as well.
why don't we pause there then, take a commercial, and then let's come back and address that if that's okay. The conversation is just getting started. I promise we hope to hit all of your points as well. Aging well when we come back.
Montgomery Showers is hiring for the position of project coordinator. Have previous remodeling experience? Come join our local team. For more information, visit us at montgomeryshowers.com.